Hi, and welcome back to Teo the Peopleist. This is a hybrid game and talk show where I play through games and tell you some real stories about North Korea, human rights, and development based on research I've done in this field. Now, before we get started, just a little bit of updates. When I started, I thought I was going to be on the ladder, but there are a few logistical problems with that. Most MTG YouTubers are doing ladder, which is fine because all they do is ladder and commentate on the game, but that just does not work very well with the format of this channel, and I don't want to just throw away rankings because I'm misclicking and I'm not reading the field, or I don't want to make my talks suffer. So I'll just make it easy. I'll just stay on unranked play. This can be better to watch too because it means less is it meme and other try-hard decks that are focused on shutting down any kind of creative play style, and I get to show off the novelty of each deck more while also getting to focus on my talks. Now, today's deck is one of my favorites from Swayzie, his Blink Cat's Bit. This one is cat heavy and makes extensive use of blinking and entry triggers. Blinking is a relatively underused mechanic where a creature is sent out and then back in to reactivate their entry trigger. So almost all of our creatures have entry triggers, which include draw and token generation, which give them a lot of value, making them work kind of like sorceries in addition to being creatures. Over here we have Airbender Ascension, which blinks out a creature on either side of the board for 2 mana. And then, after bringing in 4 creatures, it changes state to blink any one creature from your side at the end of each turn. With token generators and card drawing creatures, that's a lot of value. It also has one more bonus benefit, which is that it synergizes with Warp. So let me show you some of these. For example, over here, the Warp mechanic lets you trigger a creature's entry twice, once by playing it at a discount and then later at full cost. The discount causes the creature to go into exile at the end of one turn until you play it again at full cost, making it something of a sorcery bonus. But if you blink a warped card, then it activates its entry trigger again, and then it stays on the field, which can be a really useful discount. So some of these blinks also stack. For example, Arobo over here. Arobo stacks with other cats, so you get the entry trigger of whatever that cat is, plus 1 free cat token every turn. So for example here, Helpful Hunter, when it blinks in, you draw a card. Arobo, whenever another cat blinks in, you get a token. So blink the Helpful Hunter, when Arobo is on the field, you get both effects. Then we also have Y'shtola from Final Fantasy. Y'shtola is a more expensive version of Ascension that does the same blink effect at end of turn, but she also causes a second end of turn every turn, which means that you get to blink all of your cards a second time if she is in play. But I rarely get her out, she's more of a bonus. Then we have Regal with Lifelink. So this is usually enough to get a full board advantage, but if the opponent is still sticking around or if they're running a lot of wipes, then I'll just move on to Banner of Kinship, which, it quickly makes all of my cats real big, real fast, and it wins in 1 or 2 turns after dropping. Plus there's some slowdowns in addition to airbending that make it harder for the opponent to keep momentum. Seam Rip to exile, Sheltered by Ghosts, also a good way to exile permanents that I don't want to deal with. And I also got this neat land over here, Cavern of Souls. It makes it really easy to play cats, and it also keeps them from being countered. I mean, if I get wiped too often or if I get wiped at the wrong time, then there's nothing I can do. Now, I'm glad I'm bringing up the tempo a bit with this ultra fun deck, but I have to bring it down a little with today's talk. Up until now, we've been talking about North Koreans as victims of the North Korean state and its buddies. Usually this is how people talk about human rights in North Korea, which makes it an easy and popular topic with a lot of people. Honestly, it's easier to talk about this way because it gives the listener a good guy and a bad guy in the story, but real life is tough and we have to think about how and why things end up the way they do. Truth be told, sometimes the people we think of as North Korea's allies might be causing them trouble too. So we'll start off. It's a bit of a rough hand, but at least we have the Seam Rip, and then we're gonna draw. All right, let me slow down a minute and explain from the top. First, we need to understand what human rights is. And I'll start off with a little Seam Rip here. Sorry, buddy, not gonna let you get any momentum. So first we need to understand what exactly human rights is. And I'll save you a bunch of textbook and history info and just cut it down to the simple. Human rights is what people after World War II agreed is what every human should be allowed and never stop from having. So, for example, most people understand you can't just go around and kill someone. Everyone has the basic right to stay alive. Even if we say there are times when it's justified to kill someone, we still have to be very clear what that justification is, and usually it's a pretty high bar. All right, bye. Whew, sorry, I'm taking this guy's rights. So yeah, human rights, it's this long list of things that people should always get to have. Usually it's things like freedom from death, freedom from slavery, and so on and so forth. Now there are a couple of issues. When I say the list is long, I mean every country who's gotten in talks about what human rights means has had their own idea of rights. China says one thing, Russia says one thing, US says one thing, Japan says one thing, so on and so forth. It's hard to find two countries that have exactly the same idea of what rights is supposed to be. Yeah, I'll just get in here with the thing. That's kind of unfortunate that I haven't seen any airbender yet, but we'll get there. Just take our little time with this here. This end. Okay, yeah, so every country has their own idea, right? So, okay, this country says men and women should all have full freedom of movement. Well, what about some countries in the Middle East where there are some specific restrictions on where women can go and when? There isn't really a consensus on every single right. There are some rights that are pretty universal, and then there are, some rights that are relative to cultures. I'll just chump block this guy here. Yeah, that's all you have. I'm not too stressed. Yeah. Alright, I'm going to do what's called a gamer move. And I'm going to draw an extra card. Yeah, sweet. Still do not have our... Oh, there it is, finally. Okay. Right, so yeah, there's no full agreement on every right. Some rights are universal, some are more... some rights are more relative to a culture, or they're just missing from another culture. And then there's the other problem, which is the issue of who has to do what to make the rights happen. And this can get really complicated. So, okay, freedom from murder, freedom from imprisonment, those are rights. Easy enough. Don't murder someone, don't grab someone up, the rights are granted, just like that. Where's this one? Oh, okay, I see. Yeah, cool card. Just slow it down a little bit, and then, buddy, we are in business. You're gonna hate this. I'm gonna get rid of you, and then I'm gonna get rid of you. Yeah, I'm making it hard for this guy. Now you can sack, or you can let me get a card, up to you. Yeah, you're gonna sack? Okay, fair enough. Can't blame you. Oof. Oh, now I get a lander token, which is, it's kind of cool. I mean, I can play the Regal, but my Ascensions have not ascended yet. All right, so now, what do we do about rights to education and food and so on? If someone can't eat, who do we blame for that? Who do we say is responsible for giving the food or giving the education? It's not easy, and it makes it so that we have to talk about different rights in different ways. So here's what the UN and other people came up with after some decades. They split the key human rights into two groups. The first one, I mentioned this before in a previous talk, is liberal rights. We call that civil and political rights, or CPR. Now, I know not everyone watching is American, but maybe you have an idea of what the American Constitution looks like. It's a whole lot of guaranteed freedoms in terms of freedom from something. Freedom of speech is a big one. It means freedom from someone shutting you up. Freedom to vote means no one can stop you from voting, and so on. So you can see how these are political rights and civil rights. Right, and now let's... let's start... Oh, I know what we're going to do here. I'm going to get a plane. Drop the plane, drop the other shepherd, and bring in some more cats, and then I have blink. I am the blinkiest. What you gonna do? What you gonna do? You don't have any count. Do you have a counter? I could have a counter. We'll see. Right. So yeah, you can see how these are civil rights. They're about speaking. They're about having an opinion, using your opinion. But they're also rights like movement, freedom from imprisonment. These are very basic, old-fashioned rights, so to speak. Things that are just don't tread on me, like let me be, don't stop me from moving or talking or being alive. And you can see how these really easily apply to North Korea and the North Korean state. When the North Korean state tells you you need a permit to move between cities, that's not freedom of movement. When it says you cannot criticize the great leader, that's not freedom of speech. Very easy to see where the civil rights and political freedoms come into play. And it's really easy to criticize the North Korean state directly. Some of the worst violations we hear about in this field are like imprisonment, physical violence, murder without a good reason, usually just because someone said something, which is not very cash money if you ask me. I personally would like to know that no one will lock me up or beat me or kill me if I say something that pisses someone off politically. But that's a right I get as an American. And right, I need to pull out my cheap guy. Where's my cheap guy? As soon as I get a cheap guy on the board, that's going to trigger the Arbo. Yeah, so we got this guy out here, and now we get to trigger Arbo, which is going to give us one more cat token, which is going to complete the ascension, and now we are in business. Alright, yeah. Do I care if I lose our buddy Curiosity? Really? Yeah, okay. Wait, no, neither of these guys have landfill, right? Landfill. Okay, yeah, I'll just go with the Curiosity. If he double blocks, then it will stay in enchantment. If he single blocks, then I don't get the draw, but... Oh, no, he just let it go through. Cool. Okay, great, Halia. Very good card. I couldn't play that? Oh, a lander token, not a treasure token. Okay. So what I can do here, I can have both of these guys become permanent. Yes, I know it's my go. Give me a second. I'm doing something here, buddy. I'm sorry. And then I blink the Shepherd. I should have blinked the Curiosity. That would have been useful, but at least these guys stay here and I get 2 more planes. That's pretty cool. Alright. And next turn I got Halia or Regal. Both of those are really useful. Yeah, my opponent is not in a good situation right now. Also, there's a yeah, that'll do it. There's a trick here, by the way. Pulling out these planes like this thins out the deck so that you get better pulls next time. That's the easy part. We said what the North Korean state should not stop people from doing, what they have a responsibility to not do. Relatively easy. Then we have the new school of human rights. So these are economic, social, and cultural rights, or ESCR. That especially means economic rights like having access to food, education, housing, work, development. Above all else, that means no one can physically block you from getting those things. That's the easier part. Police cannot come into your house and steal your rice. The hard part is who has to make sure you have the food. How do they make sure you have food? That's not that easy of a question to answer, I think. Now, some time ago, I was arguing with some guy on the internet. I know. He said the only reason North Korea is in bad shape is because of US sanctions. I told him he's wrong, but that got me thinking. What if it isn't just one side to blame? What if North Koreans are having their rights deprived by different people in different ways? So, quick little history on North Korea, going back to what I said in the first episode. Early decades of North Korea were fine. They had a lot going for them. And then the Soviet Union collapsed. Economic support fell away. People started starving. Not making a good case for North Korea, right? That's a tough place. I just got to work on developing my lands here, unfortunately. Other things I'd like to do, but yeah, it's probably going to swing for 3. So early decades were fine. Soviet Union collapsed, economic support fell away, people started starving. North Korean government was providing food rations, and then they weren't because they couldn't afford it without Soviet help. So this gives us a big problem. If the North Korean government made it so that you have to go to them for food, then they stop giving you food, that means they're taking your rights away, right? Did they stop because they wanted to or because they had no choice? Okay, so they couldn't because they weren't getting outside support. Is that no one's fault? Tough question. So now we get into this complex web of things. And some analysis I did several years ago was on the system of North Korea. North Korean production system. That means farming, factories, and all that. It was not very well designed. It could have been better, but it was not risk-proofed. And they got away with it because they had a lot of aid. So can we blame the North Korean state for making a bad production system and forcing people to use it? On some level, I think, yeah, but that's not everything. So the argument here is other systems don't rely on aid. People like US and UK and so on. They work, people work, and then they take their money to the store to buy food, so they don't have to have another country give them support. I'm not going to win this, man. Yeah, there's no point. So if the North Korean state couldn't figure out how to organize a central economy without other countries giving them free money, then they did it wrong and they should be blamed. But I'm going to look at it at another angle, all right? Yes, people in the US and UK and other Western countries can earn money in their economy and spend it, but those countries are not isolated. They're not by themselves. They're in a global economy. Here's the thing. Those countries have healthy economies, and they have healthy economies while participating in a global system. The US is rich, yes. How much did it export before it got rich? Most countries are part of a big trade network where they can sell the things they produce very well and buy things that other countries produce very well. That's the fundamentals of free enterprise, liberalism, capitalism, globalism, and so on. I shouldn't, but I will. I should not, but I will. Yeah. Okay. So, if a country can't produce very much, think about tiny city countries like Singapore and Luxembourg and so on. Just small countries. I guess Luxembourg's not a city country, but you know what I'm saying. So think of those small guys. They can still use their land for business. They can establish banks or technology. They can pick one industry that will work very well for them and then bring in the experts and set things up to profit off of global trade. And North Korea can't do that. Why not? South Korea did. It's tiny and it exports technology and pop music. Didn't need good farmland for that, right? Yeah. So it's rich. North Korea can't find a global industry because here's the thing. It's not allowed to participate in the world market. This is where things get real tough. Some of the defenders of North Korean human rights are also making things hard for North Koreans. Let me back up a moment and lay things out here. I'll get there in just a sec. Let me first do a couple things. Yeah. Let me get rid of Johnny over here. Yeah. He has the authority there. I can't do anything about that, but that's okay. That'll hold up. If I just get one more land. and I can drop the caracal. That'll be useful. Yeah. Okay, so let me back up a minute. Last year, the UN Human Rights Council reviewed North Korea at its 60th session. There are all these country representatives showing up and giving 30-second testimonials on North Korea about whether its human rights record was good or bad, or what they needed to do to improve, and so on. There was all this smack talk from EU, New Zealand, Australia, all the usual suspects. Basically anyone Western, anyone who had a big economy. All of them said death camps, forced labor, torture, abuse of women, all the most terrible stuff. This is pretty much all CPR, right? Liberal rights criticisms. So these countries, we should expect, really want to see human rights get better in North Korea, right? So you've probably heard about UN sanctions. Basically, a lot of people in the UN said, hey, North Korea, stop making nuclear weapons. North Korea said, no, we're going to make nuclear weapons, so screw off. I don't see a point in attack. If I attack with the cat now, we'll just attack with Holly next turn. Yeah, I'm not going to do that. It's not necessary. Okay, let's multiply the cats now. If they swing all in next turn, we have a huge advantage. Then there's that. I hope I can get one more land next turn so I can rip that authority. I don't know, should I hold back on the banner to be safe? Yeah, he's got a lot going on. He's got a lot going on. And if he attacks only with flyers, I'm gonna that's he's gonna attack only with flyers. Okay. Alright, fair. Alright, here's the deal. I do want the banner out, but I don't want to screw myself. So, what I'm gonna do is rip the authority and airban my boy Chandler. Sorry, Chandler, take a break. And then go all in except for my two main guys. Right? Yeah. Okay. Oh, he's gonna sack the Halia. He doesn't have to sack the Halia if he doesn't want to. Oh, he's gonna sack his Hulk too. Man, that's a big sack, buddy. It's not gonna get easier from here on out. Sorry to say. Alright, will this be enough? This is not enough to trigger my airbender, but I do get a bunch more cats. Okay, so next turn I get the second ascension, yeah. Okay, so, right, these countries, they criticize North Korean human rights. They should want North Korean human rights to get better. Now, you've probably heard about UN sanctions. Basically, a lot of people in the UN said, hey, North Korea, stop making nuclear weapons. North Korea said, no, we're going to make nuclear weapons. Screw off. UN Security Council started handing out sanctions one after another, starting in 2006. 2009, they said, you can't send any money to North Korea if we think you can use it for arms. 2016, they said, you can't sell or give a bunch of these metals to North Korea. That was like silver, zinc, a few others. And they also locked out North Korean banks. They limited the amount of airline fuel that could be sent. They limited coal exports from North Korea. They banned some luxury goods, and they made it really hard to send development experts over to North Korea to teach them how to improve their technology. You see where this is going, man? This is probably going to be the game ender, but let's see. Yoop, and yeah, all except for Regal and Arabo. And that's it, that's the game ender. So, 2017, even more metals banned. Can't hire North Koreans. No seafood exports from North Korea. I mean, the list just goes on, and the sanctions, they just keep going. And that's just UN. There's also individual country sanctions on top of that. Basically, at this point, you have to ask, what even is North Korea allowed to buy or sell? And who voted for this, by the way? France, US, UK, even China and Russia in 2009. No one voted against. Same thing in 2016. New Zealand is in favor. Same again in 2017. Even North Korea's allies today, that's China and Russia. Back then, they said, yeah, okay, put a lock on them. Just lock their economy out. You know, we don't want them nuclear. I guess it didn't matter for China and Russia because they were going to trade if they wanted to. But also, bro, not a single country there was like, yeah, okay, maybe we need to stop North Korea from going nuclear. But also, are we actually just going to shut down their whole economy while we're out here making a killing on AliExpress and Temu and eating McDonald's and trading Wall Street stocks and securities? Good Lord. All right, now hold on. What do these sanctions mean? Let's get through that before everything else. What are the consequences? So let me illustrate why development is so important. And this is going to get a little bit technical. So just bear with me, all right? 1950s. All of Korea, North and South, just the whole Korean peninsula is in bottom development. It's equal to some of the least developed countries in Africa. By the end of the 20th century, South Korea is one of the most developed economies. To develop an economy, you pretty much need two things, right? Resources and capabilities. So I'll start with resources here. Resources can be just materials to build things in a country. Okay, you want to build a hospital. What do you need? Bricks and mortar. Resources could be currency, right? Money. You don't have bricks and mortar, all right? Buy some down the road. Or it could be something you sell to get currency. You have some oil, sell it. Hold on just a minute. I know exactly what's going to happen with this R blowout, but I just need some bodies. I mean, that's the safest option right now. And also it's going to start to get my ascension going. Red is a terrible matchup. Red direct, red's going to win here. All right. Whew. Okay, so yeah, you want to build a hospital, you need either bricks or mortar, or you need some kind of money. Yeah, if you have money, you don't have bricks and mortar, go down the road, buy some bricks. Or you can sell something to get some money, you know. You have some oil, sell it. You don't have oil, sell people as workers, sell metal, make some software and sell that. Pop music, cars. Any of this sound familiar? Because that's all stuff that South Korea exports. Let me tell you a little bit about South Korea, right? When I was in elementary school, no one was talking about South Korea. They had pop music at the time, except this was before this was before the Korean wave, right? This is before Hallyu, as it's called. By the time I was in middle school, high school, all of a sudden there's South Korean internet video games everywhere. Ragnarok, Tales Weaver, Maple Story, Guns, Gunbound, Silk Road, the list just goes on and on. What do I particularly want to get rid of? This guy pulls a lot. He's pulling great. Man, do I just keep helping hunters, or I'm just gonna help some hunters here. Oh yeah. That'll work for now. Okay, cool. And then I can bounce it and get one more card. Okay, still in the game, just for now. It's missing so many drops. Yeah, man, so all these games, the list goes on. South Korea dominated online PC games especially MMOs from about, I want to say 2003 on. And you want to tell me North Korea couldn't do this? They can steal $3 billion in Bitcoin, but there's no way they could make technology exports. I'm not convinced. The other thing, oh wow, guess you ran out. Other thing is capabilities, right? Okay, I give you $1 billion. What do you do with it? You need someone who can do something with it, right? You need engineers, doctors, bankers. You need technical people. One of the things US did after World War II was to put technical people on the ground, and so did Japan. In South Korea and Taiwan, they put technical people on the ground. Japan did. US put technical people on the ground in Japan. South Korea got developed. They sent technical people to Vietnam. Britain sent technical people to Hong Kong, Malaysia, Singapore. You look all across Asia and you start to see this common thread. After the wars or after colonization ended, experts hit the ground and then develop follows soon after that. So what happens to a sanctioned country? You can't import resources, can't export products, can't bring in experts. Don't misunderstand me, all right? Don't completely misunderstand me, at least. I'm not saying 100% of the sanctions have cut 100% of North Korea's economy and development off from the world. Some of that is also North Korea. UN has continuously allowed support agencies on the ground until they were kicked out in 2020. You can check the Amnesty report on that. South Korea, believe it or not, was doing a lot of green development together with North Korea. So they were trying to help them get going, right? I'll have to give you a talk on that, on the history of Korea-Korea cooperation. I think that's a pretty fun one. But not now. South Korea and North Korea cannot talk. Kim won't even pick up the phone, and South Korea has been calling day after day. Now, I know there's an argument from the other side. That's cool. I mean, I don't really... Could seem rip it, but why would I? I don't care. Let's do this. And if I try to do something now, there's a pretty good chance that it'll counter it, so I'll let that go. All right. Oh, okay. It's a roomie. That's cool. And I cannot seam rip it. Okay, so if I get something I can exile that, then I need to exile it. Okay, I don't need these two guys now. I have enough of both. I'll need something else. Let's just... Okay, gonna swing in first. And this doesn't seem like the best decision, but it could help, right? Could do things with that. Okay, yeah. Okay, right. So I know there's an argument from the other side. The sanctions are not just countries trying to be mean or something, right? The point is to keep North Korea from literally going nuclear. You know, that's worked out well, right? So this is the tough thing about being a rights and development guy, because I'm not a nuclear security guy. I'm not a military security guy. I don't know nothing, but I don't know everything about proliferation or war prevention. I'm pretty close here. Yeah, nice. Oh, a cavern, that's cool. Okay, and I can't do anything with this guy, so I won't. Okay. There's a lot I don't know, but I know that I don't like nuclear weapons or any weapons, and I agree that countries shouldn't have nukes at all. So, I don't think any country should have nukes. North Korea is one of any country, so they're included. But the security people are going to tell me that I don't know security, so I shouldn't comment on it. Except, do the military security people, do they know human security? That's the question I want to know. I don't think they're going to counter, but it doesn't hurt to have a little protection, right? Yeah, that's cool. Okay, so now these guys all have lifelink, and I have blink, so that's cool. There's a very good chance that they will remove my Caracal, so instead I'm going to give myself a little card advantage here. Because I don't really need a bunch of tokens, believe it or not. Okay, that's not exactly it, but it doesn't hurt either. It's probably going to wipe. Let's see it. Let's see the wipe. Come on, buddy. Okay. Alright. No? Ah, okay, yeah, ill-timed explosion, that's it. Okay. Yeah, that was to be expected. Alright, now... There's nothing to counter, so I'm not going to worry about that at the moment. Bring out the shepherd. And get one of these guys just in case. And now I'm going to do what's called a pro gamer move, which is to remove his win con. Which one is that? This one, yeah. Okay, remove his win con. Now the clock is ticking for him. Of course, that makes sense. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Oh, this is tough. Okay, so yeah, security people will tell me I don't know security, but I don't know if security people know anything about human security. Do they know human rights and development? Yeah, I mean, sure, they might have some consultants. I've met quite a few high-level UN staff, and they're very intelligent. They do a lot of research. They have a lot of assistants. But basically, security people are not human rights people, just like I'm not a... What? Why does that not work? That seems like it should work. How do they determine the value here? Well, I can do this. It's a land. Okay, good. Glad I got that out of there. And then... Okay, cool. That was... At least I'm glad I got them out of the way. The security people are not human rights people. And I think it's wild that the Security Council can make a decision that really impacts human rights and development. So is it fair to sanction North Korea, to cut them off, to keep them from going nuclear? Why? They're nuclear. You want to stop other countries from going nuclear. You want to set an example. Yeah. They're going to see that the Security Council couldn't stop North Korea. And they're also going to see that, Ukraine disarmed and then Russia invaded them. So I think that train has departed. That ship has sailed. And now we're past the point where we can say we know that sanctions will stop a country from going nuclear. We have no reason to believe it. All we know is that it chokes a country's people, and if a country is despotic enough that we have to sanction them to get them to listen, then they're just going to offload all the risk onto their people, blame the world for starving them, and then they're going to keep arming anyway. There's no ammo in this. Yeah. It's really cool. I was one turn away from finishing, and he just got right in on that. That was really cool. Wish I could have gotten that banner in. Rims are good. They're hard to pull off properly, but if you get them going, they're great. This is tough. This is real tough. If only we just let North Korea get nukes, maybe their people wouldn't starve. Is that what I'm saying? Nah. I'm saying that security people made some big guesses without talking to non-security people. And then they did it again, and then again. Now probably hundreds of thousands of people have starved to death, and many more lives will be lost because they couldn't get medicine or have good enough nutrition. The Arduous March, the big starvation of the 90s, that was a big result of poor national planning mixed with an unexpected event in international politics and world politics, world events, right? That wasn't anyone trying to starve North Koreans, but the North Koreans still starved. And the Kims can take some blame for that because, they could have just opened the doors and let the people out or something. But who do we blame for starving people now when the government over there is doing what they can to get money? Every time you see some article about overseas North Korean workers, crypto hacking, IT fraud, some kind of situation where North Koreans are trying to get money into their country, it always comes with some tagline about funding the military, funding nuclear development and weaponry. That isn't wrong. It's true that the national budget goes to military finance, but it also goes to other things. It goes to farms and factories. It goes to schools and hospitals. It also goes to meals for the people in the military. The military is actually like 1/4 of the country, depending on how you measure it. It might be 1 million people, so 1 in 20 people. That's still a lot of people. Every North Korean man goes to the military for 10 years or so. You can't not go to the military. They make you go. Guess what? They need to eat. They can't just go walk off their post and go work on a farm or do some market smuggling work or something. Until they're discharged, they need food and other things. And the only way they're going to get it is if the government gives it to them. Their family could give them some, but it's not quite the point, is it? So look, we can keep blaming the government in North Korea for a lot of things. We should. They're human rights violators. But we need to stop ignoring development. Development it's important. There's some good news while we're talking about development. Maybe the only good news in today's talk. I'm sorry, I'm giving you a lot of bad. The good news is development almost definitely improves human rights. First, we have economic rights, of course. The richer a country is, the more people will get to eat, go to school, have medicine. This is a simple fact. Take any country, review their history, look at when they had less, look at when they have more. I am not arguing that GDP is neatly paired with quality of human life. Sometimes a country gets richer and some groups in the country don't see it, but there is a clear point where people starve less because the whole country has more money. I'm not going to ignore that. If a country has a lot of money, it probably has a lot of production. That means a lot of people are working. Yeah, businesses absolutely can exploit workers, but there's a limit to that. All right. They simply cannot starve all of their workers to death and keep going. If a country has no business, oh, you're going to hate this. Yeah, you're going to hate this. But I just don't want your burb on the field. I'm sorry. Bye-bye, burb. And also, I don't want your landfall. Yeah, I'll just do that. I just have this land here and I keep ignoring it. What is wrong? Okay, so yeah, businesses absolutely exploit workers, but there's a limit to that. They can't starve all of their workers to death and keep going as businesses. If a country has no business, however, there's no question of whether or not people are starving. If nothing's getting produced, no one is getting anything from it. Plain and simple. The most Marxist place in the world still needs to have production, and that's something you're going to have to accept, whether you're a left wing or a right wing or whatever. Yeah, he can still kill me, so I will hold back with that. Okay, let's get back to CPR, civil rights and all that. Development is not the same thing as civil rights, but civil rights usually comes with development. So let's compare China and Vietnam before and after they developed. Yes, please. I do not want you here. Get out of here. Go. Screw off. Let's compare China and Vietnam before and after they developed. Do you think China is as bad of a place to live right now as it was when the whole Tiananmen Square thing was happening? Do you think people had more civil rights under Mao than under Xi? I mean, I know this is not that cut and dry. There are certainly some big issues here, to be fair. But there's a lot of good news if you look at China's development. So people are moving between cities more now than they were. Block that. Women are getting more recognition as individuals. LGBT people have better chances to express their identities. It's not all great, I know, but there's a lot of repression going on if we're talking about China especially. But you can check a lot of different measures and you can see, yeah, things have gotten better for sure. Vietnam, look at them. They all hang out on Facebook and YouTube and they have friends in the West and in Japan and South Korea. You think they could have done that in the 80s? Imagine living in Ho Chi Minh in the 80s and saying, yeah, I'm just talking to my friend in New York. It's totally fine now, not so much back then. All right, I'm leaving some things out. Yeah, there were some big reforms in international relations too. When Clinton went over in like 93, and he did his whole thing to open up the doors and all. You can look that up. This is not a Vietnam lecture. And so we need to know, is North Korea developing at all? And are its civil rights improving? The answer is yes, and yes. I have to mull this. Yeah, that'll work. Not ideal, but it'll work. Let's get wide and enter town. Yeah, okay. So can you believe that the rights are improving, that North Korea is developing? The UN's Committee on the Rights for People with Disabilities, they did a review last year too. They sent over a special rapporteur, or reporter, however you want to say it. Someone who goes over and makes a report. Right? She came back and she didn't have a lot of good things to say. Not a lot, but not zero. Right? So North Korea said they were putting in braille books for blind people. They said they were putting in some ramps for people with leg injuries and so on. She went there, she came back, she gave her report. They weren't lying. Now, is that enough? Nah, not yet. But it's a great start. I think we need more of that. Right? In a couple weeks, you can see this briefing video I did about cars in North Korea. There are cars now, woohoo! And listen now, all right? Some people can use those cars for things like going on dates in the city. Is that a big thing? I don't know. Is it not a big thing? I like to think that a country where you can take a car on a date is better than one where you can't, if we're talking about freedom and we're talking about civil rights. Something bigger. People have been complaining about treatment of prisoners in North Korea for some time. Is this a deck that... I don't think it's a lessons or... yeah, I don't think I need to worry about their graveyard right now. Yes, please. Let's do that. Absolutely. Right, and let's rip. That's kind of useful, but I don't know. I like to have access to all of my cards. Alright, and let's go with a big draw here. Bam, 3 cards. Thank you, Curiosity. Oh, big fat draw, very useful. Oh, sweet. Okay, so something big. People have been complaining about treatment of prisoners in North Korea for a while. Stop beating them. And the word is that at some point they did. They improved the way they were treating the prisoners. So what happened exactly? Your guess is as good as mine. Could have been some orders. It could have been that they fed the guards better, so they stopped getting so angry and taking out their anger on prisoners and abusing them and whatever. Or I don't know, maybe they installed some cameras and some guards didn't want to get caught playing stupid games. And you see the point of all this? When a country has more money, food, whatever, it does a better job at protecting people's rights, their freedoms. So maybe we should help North Korea develop. And I want to be as fair as possible to the Western world here. Yes, they've criticized North Korea while also blocking trade, but they have also sent mountains of aid, both food and technical assistance. Yeah, I think I was saying something about that earlier. I don't know how I feel about this. Let's get some light stuff down here. Yeah. I mean, I'm just gonna pull a plane next turn anyway, right? Oh, this is not great. At least I can pull the plane. I guess I can keep Halia down here. That'll be useful. Okay, so I want to be fair to the Western world. It's not fair to say they haven't tried to help North Korea develop, but we need to be realistic too, and we also need to be empathetic. Sending aid to North Korea is great, but it is still a country of people with its identity. If other countries say, we're going to make it hard for you to buy and sell things, but we'll feed you from our hands. Isn't that a little bit insulting? North Korea, the government, and the people, really, all of them, they want to develop. And North Korea wants to develop itself by having its people work and earn and trade. They don't want handouts. And they don't want to rely on other countries anymore. I mean, can you blame them after Soviet aid fell through? So that's my food for thought. Think about sanctions. Think about what North Korea wants and think about what North Korea needs. Yeah. Next time I'll try to lighten it up a little bit. I want to tell you more about what sort of place North Korea is. I think that's a good time. Maybe we can talk about what they do produce, or maybe we can talk about North Korean geography. Yeah. Look forward to it. Yeah, let it rip. Oh, snap. No, I'm not gonna win this one. Alright. Sanctions, North Korea, economic development. That's a lot of things to think about, but just think about, what does North Korea need? What do North Korean people need? think on that, and when you come to a conclusion, maybe you can talk to your local politician. So yeah, that's it for today, guys. Thanks for stopping by. See you next time.